Hello, boys and girls. I'm in a new spot in my house today. I gotta find somewhere quiet where my kids aren't at. So, today I'm going to hold the calendar. Here it is. And today's number day is 9. Let's count to 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The day of the week is Thursday, and the month is April. So we say it is Thursday, April 9th, 2020. And the weather outside is a little wild today. Sometimes it's been sunny. Sometimes you can see clouds outside, and like right now, it is snowing a little bit. So, and it's very windy. So it's a little bit funny weather out there. Today we're going to read a new story, Goldilocks and the 3 Bears. And this is a story about a curious little girl who goes for a walk in the woods, and she is surprised by what she finds. The little girl and the 3 bears eat porridge for breakfast. Porridge is kind of like oatmeal. It's a hot cereal that they eat for breakfast. Have you ever eaten porridge or oatmeal before for breakfast? And in this picture here, how do we know that it's hot? What is this coming out? Steam. And that means that it's hot. So the bears in the story live in a cottage in the woods, and a cottage is another word for a small house. In this story, the little girl named Goldilocks enters into their house when they are not home. Is that a good choice? No. We shouldn't go in someone's house when they're not home. When Goldilocks is in the bear's house, she begins to look around. What do you think is something that might be in the bear's house that she might see? And how might the bears feel about her going in their house when they're not home? Okay, let's listen and learn and find out what she finds inside the bear's house. Once upon a time, there were 3 bears who lived in a house in the forest. There was a great big papa bear, a middle-sized mama bear, and a tiny little baby bear. One morning, Papa Bear cooked some delicious porridge for the bears' breakfast. When it was ready, Papa Bear poured his own porridge in a great big bowl. Next, he poured Mama Bear's porridge into a medium-sized bowl. Finally, Papa Bear poured Baby Bear's porridge into a tiny little bowl. He placed each bowl on the kitchen table. Then, while they were waiting for the hot porridge to cool, the 3 bears went for a walk in the woods. So what do we think is going to happen while they're gone? Who's this? That's Goldilocks. That very same morning, a golden-haired girl named Goldilocks had also gone for a walk in the woods. However, Goldilocks lost her way and came upon the bear's cottage. Goldilocks saw an open window. She peeked inside the cottage. No one was there. But she spotted the 3 bears' bowls of porridge on the table. Goldilocks went inside. She was hungry and decided to eat the porridge. First, she used the great big spoon to taste the porridge in the great big bowl. "Too hot," said Goldilocks. Next, Goldilocks used the middle-sized spoon to taste the porridge in the middle-sized bowl. "Too cold," said Goldilocks. Finally, using the tiny little spoon, she tasted the porridge in the tiny little bowl. "Just right," said Goldilocks as she gobbled it up. Now, Goldilocks looked around the room. She saw a great big chair, a middle-sized chair, and a tiny little chair. Which one do you think she's going to pick? I'm tired, said Goldilocks. So she sat down in the great big chair. It was too hard. Next, Goldilocks sat down in the middle-sized chair, but it was too soft. Finally, she sat down in the tiny little chair. And just as she was thinking that the tiny little chair was just right, crash! The chair broke into pieces and Goldilocks fell to the floor. Goldilocks stood right up and was startled to see that the chair had broken into pieces. She was still tired, so she looked for another place to rest. She went upstairs and found 3 beds. There was a great big bed, a middle-sized bed, and a tiny little bed. So whose bed was the great big bed? Papa Bear's. Whose bed was the middle-sized bed or the medium bed? Mama Bear's. And whose bed was the little tiny bed? Baby Bear, yep. First, Goldilocks tried to lie down on the big bed, but it was too smooth. Next, she tried the middle-sized bed, but it was too lumpy. Finally, she stretched out on the tiny bed. It was just right, and Goldilocks fell fast asleep. Uh-oh, what's happening now? The bears came home. What do they find? Let's find out. As Goldilocks slept, the 3 bears returned from their walk. They sat down to eat and knew right away that something was wrong. What was wrong with their porridge? Do we see it? Papa Bear looked at his great big bowl. He cried out in a loud voice, "Someone has been eating my porridge." Mama Bear looked at her middle-sized bowl. She said in her middle-sized voice, "Someone has been eating my porridge." Then Baby Bear looked at his little tiny bowl. He squeaked in his little tiny voice, "Someone has been eating my porridge and has eaten it all up." Then the 3 bears looked around. Papa Bear looked at his great big chair. He cried out in his great big voice, "Someone has been sitting in my chair." Mama Bear looked at her middle-sized chair. She said in her middle-sized voice, "Someone has been sitting in my chair." Then Baby Bear looked at the broken pieces of his little tiny chair. Uh-oh. What do you think he's going to say? He squeaked in his little tiny voice, "Someone has been sitting in my chair and has broken it all to pieces." The 3 bears ran upstairs to the bedroom. Papa Bear looked at his great big bed. He said in his great big voice, "Someone has been sleeping in my bed." Mama Bear looked at her middle-sized bed. "Someone has been sleeping in my bed." Then Baby Bear looked at his little tiny bed. He squeaked in his little tiny voice, "Someone has been sleeping in my bed, and here she is." At that very moment, Goldilocks woke up. She saw the 3 bears standing over her. She was shocked and afraid. Oh no. So she scrambled out of the tiny bed and ran down the stairs out of the cottage. The 3 bears never saw Goldilocks again. The end. So now Miss Ashley will ask you some questions about the story. First, the question is, Who went into the bear's cottage while the bears were out for a walk? Do you remember her name? Goldilocks. She went into the cottage when the bears were out for a walk. Why did Goldilocks like Baby Bear's porridge, chair, and bed the best? Why do you think? She didn't like anything of Papa Bear's. She didn't like anything of Mama Bear's. But all of Baby Bear's stuff was just right. She thought the porridge was the best because it was the perfect temperature. That means it wasn't too hot and it wasn't too cold. It was just right. She liked Baby Bear's chair because it was the most comfortable. And she liked his bed because it wasn't too lumpy or too smooth. How did Goldilocks feel when she woke up and saw 3 bears looking at her? She was shocked and afraid, remember? And how do you think the bears felt when they came home and there was a strange person eating their food, sitting in their chairs, and sleeping in their beds? How would someone feel if someone was in their house and they ate some food and broke their chair and slept in their bed? Do you think they'd probably be a little mad or a little sad? Sometimes maybe a little scared? What do you think? Okay. You keep thinking about how those bears felt, and I hope you have a good day. Goodbye.